Welcome to Constitutional Chisme.
A law baddie's guide to the legal basics. I'm your host, Stephanie.
And I'm your co-host, Harleigh.
Every week we will drop an episode that you'll likely cover your first year in law school or some other bar course in your law school journey. Make sure you pay close attention to our podcast because we will drop Easter eggs of what case we plan to drop next week. See if you can guess which one.
Okay, so today's going to be a little bit different in that this may or may not be a case that you typically cover in law school. It didn't set any particular precedent, but it did make a very big impact in popular culture and kind of shaped the way that tort law was viewed by a large portion of the population. So today we are talking about Liebeck versus McDonald's, or the hot coffee case.
Yes, and if you're listening to this, have an open mind. I remember thinking, like, this lady is taking advantage of McDonald's because, one, I didn't read the case, and two, I was just listening to whatever the television said. That is really not what happened, and we're here to open your eyes of what actually happened, if you didn't already know. Harleigh, did you know that it was, like, severe or no?
No, so, like, there's a lot of pop culture references to this case. For me, personally, the one that always comes to mind is that Toby Keith song where he's like, spill a cup of coffee, make $1 million. Like, and it's, the whole song is about, like, how backwards America has gotten and, like, how bad we are as a country, yada, 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 whatever. And so, like, it was one of the only places I saw that case. So it was like, it existed in a vague way, like in my head, like woman spills coffee, decides she's going to sue about it, becomes overnight millionaire. Like that was the narrative that I was taught.
Same. Shit. I got to take my bread out. Give me just the lid off.
Bro, not the bread.
Give me a second. I'm with you where I just kind of heard that narrative that someone basically spilled a little bit of coffee and got a bunch of money and was taking advantage. And it wasn't until law school and where we were told to read the case and told to learn what actually happened and saw photos of what happened that I realized, wow, this woman was injured and bullied for years, you know? So it's sad.
No, it's really interesting. Our tort professor had us read this case to like kind of go over why tort law is important and how tort law protects kind of the little guy from, you know, bigger corporations and things like that, and kind of holds them accountable for their actions. People fall victim, if not to the misuse of power, then to the narrative that power creates. So what really happened is on February 27th, 1992, 79-year-old Stella Liebeck ordered what was at the time a 49-cent cup of coffee at the McDonald's at 5001 Gibson Boulevard in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Okay.
So Stella was in the passenger seat of her grandson's Ford Probe, which, if you're not a car person, a Ford Probe it kind of looks like a little Pontiac. It's just a little coupe that Ford made in the late 80s. So, because it was an older car, it did not have cup holders. So, another narrative that I heard, like part of the story that I was told, was that she was like driving, she was whipping around, and then she decided to open this cup of coffee while she's whipping around.
Yeah.
No. One, she was not driving at all. She was in the passenger seat. And two, the car was parked. So they ordered their cup of coffee, they park, and she takes the lid off to add her cream and sugar to it. Now, in the process of taking the lid off, she kind of pulls the cup a little too much and spills the entire cup of coffee into her lap.
Oh, shoot. Do we know what size the coffee cup was? Was it like a large?
I don't actually know. So it was made worse by the fact that she was wearing like a pair of cotton sweatpants. So the coffee like soaked into her clothes.
Oh, no.
And went directly to her skin.
let me just make sure. Let me set the scene. She's in this little truck. She is not driving. She takes the lid off, as most people do when she ordered a black coffee. I'm assuming if she's taking the lid off and like pouring sugar.
Yeah, it's just a little cup of black coffee.
Yeah, and then goes to pour sugar, but spills it all over her lap, and
yes.
It's like stuck on there.
Here's the thing: is that at the time, McDonald's was keeping their coffee at somewhere between 180 to 190 degrees Fahrenheit or 82 to 88 degrees Celsius. Mm-hmm. So the moment this coffee got to her skin, she suffered third-degree burns on 6% of her skin and lesser burns, so first and second degree burns, over 16% of her body.
And this is all in her lap area?
Yes. Ooh. So she was burned severely enough that she had to undergo skin grafting, which is essentially a process where they have to take skin from healthy parts of your body and move it to the burned parts of your body to kind of help your body heal and regrow that skin. Mm-hmm. So she's in the hospital for 8 days. And in the process of that, she loses 20 pounds. Now, at first, that may not seem like a whole lot of weight. But
in 8 days, though?
In 8 days, and get this, that brought her down to 83 pounds.
She's almost the same weight as she is age-wise.
No, literally. She's only 4 pounds heavier than she is years old. That's insane.
Yeah.
So even after she gets out of the hospital, she had to continue to have care from her daughter for an additional 3 weeks. And she was permanently disfigured from this incident. So, trigger warning, this is like a little graphic. I'm going to get into a little bit more specifics of what her injuries were and where they were. So if that is not what you came here for, and that is not something that you want to hear, I would skip forward just a little bit, maybe about 30, 40 seconds to get right past this. So she suffered third-degree burns specifically to her pubic region, specifically her labia and her perineum, which is the little bit of skin that exists between your vagina and your anus. And her burns were actually so severe that it melted the skin of her labia together. And she had to have it surgically reopened so that she would be able to use the restroom.
And that was third-degree burns in that area, right?
Yes. Third-degree burns in her pubic area specifically. And there are photos of her injury. There was also a documentary that was created called Hot Coffee. The documentary, I think it's HBO. Okay. I think HBO did a documentary. But there is a documentary on this case called Hot Coffee. And they do show some of the photos of her injuries. So that is something that you can find if you're interested. Warning, they are very graphic. They're very hard to look at. But this was much, much worse than just like a discomfort of, oops, I got a little bit of coffee spilled on me. It was extremely hot, and it had come directly out of it had just been served, and then it immediately happened that she spilled it. So it was just a bad sequence of events. So
yeah,
Liebeck originally went to McDonald's and sought to settle with them for $20,000. And all she was asking for was her actual and anticipated medical expenses. So at that point, she was out of pocket $10,500 for medical expenses. And she anticipated future medical expenses to be roughly $2,500. And then she was also seeking $5,000 for her daughter for loss of income.
Okay. Yeah, because she had to take care of her, right?
Exactly. So she was looking to settle for roughly $18,000, $18,000 to $20,000.
Okay. Yeah. So she was just trying to get whatever the hospital's charging her, a little more for the future expenses, and then some money for her daughter who had to stop working in order to take care of her.
Yes, because another thing about skin grafts like this, it's an ongoing process. So it's something that you have to keep going back to get additional surgeries for because of the way burns heal. It's a very delicate process. So, like I said, she was seeking $18,000 roughly in expenses. McDonald's counter offer to her $800.
You're joking.
$800.
They saw the $10,000 worth of medical bills and said, here's $800?
Yep. Yes, they did.
This is what's frustrating because they could afford 20 grand and it not hurt them. Like, that's, tell me what you think, Harleigh. Like, I couldn't imagine just as a person, if I had a major company like this and I see any of these photos and see these medical expenses and being like, let's give her like $5. You know, like, that's crazy.
That's insane. No, I agree. It's just the horrificness of the injuries, and particularly when you consider the fact that this is an elderly woman. Like, don't get me wrong, this is tragic regardless of who it happens to, but young people and elderly people are particularly vulnerable and have a harder time with catastrophic injuries like this. So her chances of healing and having a decent quality of life following this are not great. Like, you have effectively ruined the last few years this woman has with her family, and you have $800. You're a multi-million-dollar company. That's crazy.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's insane. So what happened when they countered?
So when McDonald's said $800, that's all we got, she went and hired a Texas-based attorney named Reed Morgan. And Morgan filed suit in the U.S. District Court for the District of New Mexico. So he took it to federal court, and he accused McDonald's of gross negligence for selling coffee that was unreasonably dangerous and defectively manufactured.
Really quick, is this pro hoc vice?
I don't know if he was barred. I don't know if he was barred in New Mexico or not.
Okay.
He may have had a license to practice in both, but that is a good little fun fact to throw in here, that if he was not, he could have appeared pro hoc vice.
That was the only time I've ever been able to use that.
I'm going to throw in this little Latin phrase I know, guys. No big deal. Sua sponte. Sua sponte Latin. Ugh. So before this ever goes to trial, her attorney offers to settle the case for $300,000.
Dang, okay.
And then offers a second settlement offer of $225,000. And McDonald's told him where he could shove both of those offers, and they went to trial.
Oh, wow. McDonald's really said, we got it.
We got this. Now, I want you to hold on to those numbers, okay? I want you to lock those little numbers in your noggin. $300,000, okay?
Okay.
Lock it in. The trial took place starting on August 8th of 1994 and continued until August 17th. And it was done before New Mexico District Court Judge Robert H. Scott. So it was during the course of the trial, and shout out to her attorney who did some really great, like, deep diving in research into what the standards were at the time. And so he discovered that McDonald's required, like I said earlier, it required their franchisees to hold coffee at somewhere between 180 to 190 degrees Fahrenheit. And her attorneys made an argument that coffee should never be served hotter than 140 degrees Fahrenheit or 60 degrees Celsius. And they actually showed evidence that a lot of the other establishments in the area were serving coffee at substantially lower temperatures than what McDonald's was serving. So he's basically making an argument that says they had a duty to do what every other establishment in that area is doing, which is serving coffee at a substantially lower temperature. And in fact, they went around and tested other coffee places in Albuquerque and did all the math. And they were like, on average, everyone in the city was serving coffee at least 20 degrees colder than McDonald's was. And then they also brought in an expert to testify that 190-degree coffee can produce third-degree burns in about 3 seconds.
So even if she only spilled a little bit, she didn't wipe it off immediately with something that would wipe it off, not even her hand, it's going to give her a third-degree burn?
Yes. Even if the coffee had been at the lower end of McDonald's requirement at 180 degrees, that could produce third-degree burns in about 12 seconds. And that if they had lowered the temperature just to 160, it would take 20 seconds for those burns to occur. So you go from a period of 3 seconds to a period of 20 seconds. That gives a person a lot more reaction time.
Yeah.
To, get it off of their skin, get the clothes off that maybe, because like in her case, it was her sweatpants that were keeping the coffee touching her skin. So McDonald's argued in response that the reason they were serving such hot coffee at a drive-thru is because most people who go through drive-thrus are commuters. They're going to work. So they need the coffee to be hot so that it's drinkable by the time they get to work. Well, her attorneys found out that McDonald's had actually researched this and determined that most people were actually immediately drinking the coffee. And they were well aware of that fact. And they'd also gotten advice from consultants that high temperatures are necessary to fully extract the flavor. And that's why they had decided to keep the coffee at higher temperatures.
Oh, they were wanting it to be more flavorful?
They wanted it to taste better. So
when it burns your throat.
When it burns you, when your tongue gets scalded, you're going to be like, the flavors are melting my tongue. So there were other documents that were brought out that showed that in the 10-year period before this particular case, McDonald's had gotten more than 700 reports of people being burned by this coffee, and that they had settled various cases for more than $500,000 in some cases.
Wait, so they've already had 700 different cases where this coffee at this temperature has burned people, paid out as much as $500,000. So this woman gets third-degree burns, and they wanted to give her $800?
Yes.
And we're willing to go to trial knowing that the likelihood of all these other incidents would come up? That's insane.
That's insane. And in fact, McDonald's own quality control manager testified that that number was not high enough for the company to reevaluate its practices.
The 700 people?
700 reports. So you got to think about the people who got burned and never reported it.
Yeah. But they said 700 was not enough.
Yeah. He said that wasn't enough to make them reconsider.
And that's what makes me curious, like how much money they're making and how many customers they see, which is also frustrating because it's like they could have afforded to pay her what she asked for, because apparently it didn't hurt their pockets when they paid someone else $500,000.
Well, just to clarify, it wasn't $500,000 to an individual plaintiff. It was $500,000 totaling other settlements that they had done.
Oh, okay.
But they had settled with other people. So there had been injuries severe enough that they were willing to pay out money.
Do you think they were more severe than this one?
I don't know. I can't imagine. I'm sure it's possible.
Why would you look at hers and not think, like, this is enough to, This
is enough that something's got to give.
Yeah.
Well, McDonald's didn't think that, but that jury sure did, because on August 18th, the jury came back and applying the principles of comparative negligence, which basically means they weigh out who they think is at fault and by what percentage. They said that McDonald's was 80% responsible for what had happened, and that Liebeck was 20% responsible. And the jury decided that even though there was a warning on the coffee cup, it was not big enough and it was insufficient. And they originally awarded Liebeck $200,000 in compensatory damages, which is essentially damages that are given to compensate a plaintiff for the damages they've incurred. So that can be loss of quality of life, that's lost income, medical bills, expected medical expenses in the future, things like that. So $200,000 in compensatory damages and $2.7 million in punitive damages. Now, punitive damages are damages that are awarded to basically tell a company or some other defendant, what you did was so bad, we're going to charge you extra money about it so that you won't do this again. And how did the jurors come up with that $2.7 million in punitive damages? They said that's 2 days worth of coffee revenue for all of the McDonald's franchises.
At 49 cents a coffee?
At 49 cents a coffee. And they said that's what Liebeck was entitled to.
2 days worth of coffee sales?
Yeah, but so here's the thing. So that came out to a grand total of nearly $3 million. However, the court reduced her compensatory damages down to $160,000. And then the judge also reduced her punitive damages to $480,000, saying that it could not be so excessive in light of the compensatory amount. And Liebeck walked away with $640,000. So the myth of the millionaire, the overnight millionaire from spilling a cup of coffee, not even true. She didn't make $1 million. And that's not even to consider how much of that $640,000 then had to go to attorney's fees.
And medical bills.
And medical bills that she'd already incurred.
Yeah. Harleigh, just for the listeners, the judge has the authority to change the numbers that the jury gives.
Yes. So in certain cases, there's basically a checks and balances system where a judge can step in, especially when it comes to punitive damages. And now there are certain cases and different states handle it in different ways, but there are certain caps on punitive damages so that you can't essentially only suffer, let's say, a broken leg and get $10,000 in compensatory damages, and then the jury say, but you also get $25 million in punitive damages. Because the court finds that to be excessive in light of what the actual compensatory damages were. So, like in this case, the judge found the punitive damages to be excessive and brought it down so that it was roughly 3 times what the compensatory damages were.
So had the compensatory damages been higher, then the punitive damages would have been allowed to be higher as well.
Yes. So let's say you get $300,000 in compensatory damages. Applying the same principle that Judge Scott did in this case, you could get $900,000 in punitive damages. Now, he reduced the compensatory damages because the thing about compensatory damages is you basically have to be able to account for everything. You have to be able to nickel and dime your way through the compensatory damages and show why you're entitled to that specific amount. Mm-hmm. And after reviewing everything, the judge basically said it actually comes out to about $160,000 rather than the $200,000 that the jury had originally said.
Okay.
Like I said, the jury reached the verdict on August 18th, 1994. It did get appealed, but the verdict was upheld. But it still lives on in its pop culture infamy. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people have called this like the poster child of excessive lawsuits. Mm-hmm. It's kind of taken on this air of like proof of how litigious Americans had become. Mm-hmm. Because McDonald's really leveraged their clout as like an everyday, as a household name, as something that was, you know, in almost any town in America, even at this point. They used that ability to kind of sway media attention and the way that this was talked about. So like that quote of the poster child of excessive lawsuits, like that came from ABC News.
So you were quoting verbatim. Like
so that is a verbatim quote from ABC News. And the other sad part is that her attorney went on to defend the result and say, hey, this was justified because we did make McDonald's change their practices, but actually they didn't. So McDonald's continued to serve coffee in that range up until at least 2007. And I believe it wasn't until 2013. Yeah, it wasn't until like 2013 that there were any reports to show that they were actually lowering the temperature of their coffee by any significant amount. And unfortunately, I hate to give this case a bad ending because it does in a lot of ways seem like the little guy triumphed here. But unfortunately, Stella Liebeck died on August 5th, 2004 at the age of 91. And according to her daughter, the entire settlement had gone to pay for a live-in nurse for the last few years of her life because they had, quote, the burns and court proceedings had taken their toll. And in the years following the settlement, Liebeck had little to no quality of life.
That's so sad.
And so I'm really glad that our tort professor started with this case because it does remind you why tort law exists the way that it does, why it gets the criticisms that it does, and how just because you win the case, it doesn't mean you win the day.
Yeah.
So that is the hot coffee case and the truth behind what really happened to Stella Liebeck.
I think what's really hard with this is that the point of the punitive damages is to discourage a company from, or whoever, from doing this again, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like it's meant to be a, hey, don't do that anymore. Like this cost you a lot of money. It's basically like a spray bottle.
Yeah. In
a company's face, like a don't do that.
Yeah. And clearly it didn't work. I'm curious if they would have changed the temperature had they upheld the 2.2 million.
I also wonder that because you have to consider the fact that they came to that number based on how much McDonald's made in 2 days of just coffee sales. And you have to consider the fact that they sell coffee only in the morning at 49 cents a cup.
Yeah.
This cannot be their big earner.
Yeah. They probably sell a lot of McChickens or something.
Yeah, it's gotta be McChickens. I mean, whatever it is. I don't know if it's chicken.
Whatever, if it even is meat.
Mystery meat. Let me not talk too much because I will mess up a McChicken, unfortunately. One thing about me, I'm going to mess up some chicken nuggets and a McChicken.
I had chicken nuggets. I think it was with you. We stopped at McDonald's. Do you remember?
Yes. Are you talking about when we were on our way up to Abby's for Girls Weekend?
Yes. And it ruined my stomach. I was like, it was horrible.
Listen, but it's stuff like this. It's the fact that McDonald's reputation was not damaged by this.
No.
Everyone kind of saw them as the victims of this story. And they very much were not. This wasn't even enough of a punitive damage for it to be punitive. They didn't change anything.
All the money that they would have spent paying her, had they paid the punitive damages, they used to, rip her apart in social media.
Exactly. And also, I want to circle back to the fact that she offered to settle with them for a max of $20,000.
Yeah.
And then they ended up having to pay $680,000.
And if you're like, well, that's still a lot of money. Again, that does not include what she owes the hospital and what she owes the attorneys that represented her and any other expenses that she had to do. So it's not like she pocketed that much money.
No. And like it said, that settlement ended up going to pay for a live-in nurse for the remainder of her life. Mm-hmm. So in essence, those should have been compensatory damages alone because that's what it took to care for her because of damages that happened because McDonald's was serving their coffee hot as hell, and didn't care that it was hurting people because it wasn't hurting their pockets.
No. And they continued to have it at this ridiculously high temperature for a long time. And who knows how many people after that suffered as well.
Yeah. I mean, this definitely also contributed to the narrative. There were a lot of similar lawsuits that happened after this, both to McDonald's and various other companies that serve coffee in any capacity, be it Starbucks, be it like, I don't know, Chick-fil-A serves coffee. I'm sure they've had a hot coffee soup before. Like, there was a long list of these that basically harkened back to Stella's case to say, hey, I'm also entitled to money now.
Well, I hope they got a hell of a lot more than she did.
No, in a lot of cases, the court would throw them out as frivolous. But I think a lot of that is because this was such a media circus, and people, you know, nobody wanted to be the judge that handed down another McDonald's case. They didn't want their name tied to this.
Yeah. I looked it up really quick, and Chick-fil-A was sued in 2019.
Yeah.
For hot coffee. So, I mean, this is still an issue today, right?
Also, the year of our Lord 2008, I think. 2008, 2007, I should have sued Taco Bell.
Why should you have sued Taco Bell? What did they do?
Because, listen.
Please tell me you didn't buy coffee at Taco Bell, because that's weird.
Who is buying coffee at Taco Bell?
I was like, I didn't know they sold it.
Anyway, no, I was a child. I was not ordering coffee. I was ordering nachos. And, you know, at Taco Bell, they serve you that little cup of nacho cheese with the little tortilla chips.
Yeah.
Well, they had microwaved the plastic cup. No. And the plastic melted. The bottom of the plastic cup melted, and it fell on my arm and gave me third-degree burns on my arm.
Has the statute of limitations already happened?
Yeah, the statute of limitations ran on that a long time ago. But I remember telling my mom, little lawyer me at like, what was I, 11 at that point? I had to be before 2008, now that I'm thinking about it. Whatever, however old I was. I looked my mom dead in the eyes and was like, we're taking this to court. Don't play with me.
What did your mom say?
She said, no, we're not. We're not taking this to court. I said, yes, we are.
Wait. Did you go to the hospital?
Yeah, I had to go to the hospital.
Why did she not take this to court? You could have been rich.
I don't know. I have a scar still.
Taco Bell, if you're hearing this, yes,
Taco Bell.
I still eat there. Okay.
Yes, I still eat there. I don't eat the nachos anymore, though. I will tell you that.
If you want us to stop telling her story, you need to give us...
Buy my silence.
Money. That's crazy you got burned. You know what happened to me at an Applebee's? This is crazy. I should have sued them. And this happened like 4 years ago. I got some barbecue chicken. And thankfully I like the barbecue chicken nugget things. What are they called?
I know what you're talking about. The Applebee's chicken tendies. That's not what they're called officially, but that's what they are.
Tell me why I cut it into it, and there is a huge piece of plastic in between the chicken. And I was like, oh my God. And I haven't been back to an Applebee's since, because that was
I hate Applebee's.
Yeah.
I hate Applebee's. Well, clearly I got over my trauma because I still hit up the Taco Bell. I will still get my beefy 5-layer. Nothing is standing between me and that beefy 5-layer. Or a Crunch Wrap. Either or.
I like their Dorito taco.
Oh yeah, the Doritos Locos Tacos.
Yes. I'm like, that's so cool.
They're so good. Oh my God. I used to be obsessed with the Cool Ranch ones. Mm-hmm. And then they discontinued them.
Oh.
They don't have them anymore.
Why?
I don't know. Because they hate me specifically. They also got rid of the loaded potato griller. And Taco Bell, if you're listening, I will forgive the infraction. I will overlook the scar that you gave me if you bring back the loaded potato griller. And if anybody comments on this thing and says something about that potato beefy burrito nonsense they have now, that's not what I'm asking for. That's not what I want. I don't want beef in it. I want potatoes only. Thank you.
So funny. Oh yeah. I'm still accepting birthday presents.
Oh my God.
All you have to do is click the link in the show notes and you can follow us on any of our social media platform. And click the birthday wish list if you want to make my life better.
Or if you want to make both of our lives better and it not cost you a thing, you can literally follow us on those social media platforms while you're there. You can follow us on Instagram.
Yeah. Tell your friends too.
Yes, before we go, shout out to our wonderful sponsor, Belmonte. As always, our queens, our icons.
I was wearing my necklace the other day from them and it was so cute.
Oh my God, they have jewelry?
Yeah. They have bags.
That sounded so fake, but I genuinely did not know they had jewelry, and that sounds so cool.
Yeah, it's really cute. One of them is called Golden Hour. But yeah, it's really pretty. It's really cute. I love their tote bags. I want one of those. And I have their quarter zip.
I love a quarter zip. Oh my God, the jewelry is so cute.
Right?
Oh my God, the Golden Hour necklace is beautiful.
Right? I really like it. I love the colors. So yeah, so for anyone that's like, you're like, maybe I don't want to like do skincare and take care of my skin. Crazy. They have jewelry. They have, look at the tote bags. Aren't they cute?
Oh my God, the quarter zip is super cute.
It's so
I love a quarter zip though. Oh my God, the tote bag.
Mm-hmm.
The Halo Weekender is actually calling my name.
No, period. And you can get an exclusive discount, Study Muse 15. Use that when you check out. And yeah, support a female-owned business. And support us. Follow us. Send us emails if you have any questions or you want us to cover certain topics, certain cases, send us a message. We're happy to do that.
Yeah. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on TikTok. Leave a comment. Take a guess on what you think our next case will be. We did leave a couple of little hints throughout this episode.
A lot of hints.
A lot of hints. So that's how you can support the show, simply by going to our Instagram. It's Legally Ponzaneli Podcast. Give us a follow over there. You can also follow our TikTok at legally.ponzaneli. The dot is very important. If you go over to Legally Ponzaneli, no dot, that's just Stephanie. Love that too. You should also follow that account because it's just full of Stephanie doing fun stuff.
I'm baking.
It's a lot of sourdough. So go over and when you're done studying with us and you're done hearing all about these cool cases, you can go unwind with some sourdough. Mm-hmm. And if you're feeling so inclined, you can also click on the link for the Patreon. All of the proceeds from those different tiers go to help support the show and support providing guest gifts for all the wonderful people who come and talk about their journey to the JD. Mm-hmm. So go check out our Patreon if you're feeling so inclined, or just follow us on social media and keep up with us. We post new episodes every single week.
Yep. Thank you guys. Bye.
Bye.